this is a subject that really took a huge impact of my life, and also not just my life, but the life of my friends, my family, and eventually a year after or sometime after my conversion in Christ, and what it did to my life and my spiritual life when I went back to these games all over again. And so if you know somebody who's struggling with video games, and maybe you're the one struggling with video games, well, this video is just for you because I can relate to you, and I can relate to those guys who you know that have addiction to video games. So I want to first begin by talking about myself here and how it affected my mind so much, and not just my mind, but in the minds of others, because I'll hang around with other guys who were also too addicted to video games, and in which it would share some of this stuff, and some of the stuff these guys desired was pretty weird, pretty strange. Some of them desired, to have a woman like, the woman of Final Fantasy, or women like that, not real women, like not real women who seek to, responsibility and wisdom and so on and so forth. No, they seek women who is like, or somewhat close to the women they see in a video game. They had really weird intentions in the mind, but I mean, I'm here to talk about myself. And what some of the effects it did to my life was, I lacked sleep. You know, I wasn't sleeping right. I was up all night playing video games. I lack eating right. I wasn't eating correct. I'll eat one meal a day, and back to video games again. Or or if I didn't want to cook, I'll eat junk food because I was too lazy to cook, right? And go back to video games. And another thing too was, I was also addicted to television and computers. Anything to do with a screen, I had to be there. As soon as I was born of video games, I go to television. As soon as I was bored of television, computer, and it was just like this non-stopping cycle over and over, always being hooked on something to do with the screen. And eventually made me lazy, yes, and I lack exercise. And I love sports. I love going out playing soccer. Soccer is my favorite sport. I like going out for walks and jogs and getting to know places, and get up my butt and type of things, and go out and do something, right? I like that. I like doing that. Something that would have been good for my body. I wasn't doing it anymore, right? Because of video games. It made me forgetful, like, have on here. It made me have wrong desires. All I would do is, because of it, I had wrong desires. I'd want to go out and steal or commit crime or do something, because all I'll do is I'll play video games. That What do? You kill, torture, steal, corrupt, lie, do a bunch of evil immorality stuff that doesn't make me a better person, but makes me a bad person. And it made me miserable at a point. Maybe very wretched and depressed, I could say, because I was just hooked into a fantasy world that I didn't get anything from this. I mean, it's a game, guys. It's a video game. It's not even real. The things you achieve on these games, they're not gonna come out in real life. Like, it's you gotta get real here. It's a game, and don't get me wrong, I was there too. I was hooked into a game. This ridiculous games that I spend time and money to, right? So this is the reality of it. And another thing I really regret that it happened, but I don't want to live in regret, and I want to move forward now and move ahead, was my family. This really took a huge thing on my family, and the things I could have done with my family and spend more time with my family. I could have been a good son to my parents, but no. Why? Because of video games again, right? So these are some of the things that it affected my family, affected me towards my family. I was lacking spending time with my parents, my brothers. I wasn't doing things with them anymore. I wasn't going out spending time with them. They would tell me, hey, let's go out and, play or play some sports, or let's go out for a walk in the mall or something like that. I wasn't doing that. Why? Because I was hooked into video games again. Eventually made me disobedient, unloving, uncaring, rebellious, selfish, unthankful, unhelpful towards my parents. I wasn't becoming a very good son anymore. My new family was video games, and my family in the video games, it was like the characters in the games that I would play. The little crew you get in a Final Fantasy game, or whatever other games you play. That was my new family now, and I was spending more time with them than to spend time with my parents, my real blood and flesh family. And I could have made things better. I could have been a better son, and had a more happier family and get to know them a bit more. But the past is the past, and I have to live forward now. And I'm good with my parents now. This is not going on today. So another thing too that really took a hold on me and was my friends, and how I came to them and how I approached them towards them afterwards, during my addiction, I should say, not towards after, but during my addiction, how I reacted towards them. And these are one of the things, right? I lack communication with them. We had interest clash, because I was too busy into video games. That's all I would think about is video games. So we had interest class. We didn't talk about the same subjects or the common subjects we had anymore. And at some points I lost some good friends, right? Some, people who really would have cared, you know, here again at the bottom. And, I ignored some good friends, right? People who were good to me, people who wanted to build me up strong. I wasn't doing it anymore. I wasn't hanging out with them anymore. I'm good with them now, but before that, yeah, I didn't even hang around with these guys. Bad company corrupts good character. This is where, because I was all into video games of killing and torture and sex and drugs and stuff like that. That's who I hung around with. I hung around with bad people. People, that's what they did. They went around stealing and doing drugs and lived a bad lifestyle. I started hanging around with them because the games I played was also a bad lifestyle. And so this corrupted me morally. I became immoral instead of becoming holy and pure, you know. So this is the one thing. And another thing too is I lack creativity. So when I hung around with my friends, again, this goes back to the interest clash. When I hung around with my friends, we didn't, we'd be so creative in what we'd do. We would go out and hang around and do something creative and do something that was not repetitive, and yeah, get to spend time with each other. That was all erased, because in my mind all I was thinking about, it was video games. How do I beat the next boss? What's the next level like? When is the next game coming out? Etc, etc, etc. Just things that weren't even important to or even worth time to think about was in my mind. But again, you know, I didn't do I didn't have a good approach to my friends afterwards. When I could have had a good approach, when I could have good friends who would have built me up strongly, could have built me up morally, could have edified me. Instead, I went along with these types of people, and these people didn't do anything. That's all they did is they had the same problem as me, video game addiction, right? And it didn't make me any better, right? Two wrongs don't make a right. So when I could have seeked mentorship and seeked God more, and look for counsel, and be with men who are experienced in life, where they could have guided me, and made me wise and strong in God. And no, that didn't even existed. And eventually, you know what? After my conversion in Christ, um, I went back to video games, and yes, it did took a hold on my spirituality. I lacked prayer. I wasn't spending time with God. I wasn't spending time with the Bible. Sometimes I'd won't go to church because I would be stuck in this in this level in a game that I couldn't beat, that I wasn't gonna get anything out of it, where I could have went to church and got something real out of it, right? That I could have exercised in real life. But here I is again, stuck in a video game because I wanted to beat a level that, anyways. This is stupidity, really. That's all it is. This is stupidity. I fell into sin eventually, right? Like I said, mentioned before. And another thing too is, before I go any a little bit further here, at the time I was very aware of the Illuminati, the Freemasonry, and all the effects that they have towards the world, and the mark that they put on things that belong to them. Because we as Christians, we gotta know this one thing, is that this is a fallen world, and this fallen world belongs to Satan. This world belongs to Satan, and it's all towards them, right? Everything that this world does, it's towards Satan, and it's for his glory. And so when I was playing these games, I did exactly right. I'd seen the all-seeing eyes in certain games and stuff like that. And I mean, again, I'm a Christian. I'm playing these video games. I don't really care. I'm aware of this. I'm aware of this symbol, but I don't really care because I'm so amused and so entertained and so moved by the entertainment that this game provided me with. I really care about the whole symbolism stuff. I didn't really care about that because I was so entertained and amused by the video game and all the things that it provided. When I knew this stuff was so satanically marked, because it was so satanically marked, but because I was so amused again with these video games, I didn't really care. Uh, Again, I didn't even spend time with God, so I didn't even care if this was highly satanic or highly godly or whatever. I was there because the amusement of the game overweighed the symbolism and the philosophy mindset that this games had provided to me. I didn't really care. I was more amused to the game, right? And so in this struggle, eventually I came to a point where, so miserable, so depressed. I had to make a choice, right? Was I gonna follow God and His word, or was I gonna be keep playing these games knowing that they have so many satanic symbolism and philosophy all integrated into it? I had to make a choice. I really had to make a choice, and eventually, after praying, seeking God, and other friends of mine praying for me too, especially my mother. Yes, I seeked to look for God and heaven and the things God has for me in heaven, because we play these games and we think it's so entertaining and we're so amused, but no, God in heaven is more entertaining and more amusing than these video games. Video games is nothing compared to heaven. In heaven there's not gonna be no video games, right? Heaven is better than video games. It's 10 times millions way better than video games. There's nothing that can compare to God and heaven and the things God has for us in heaven. We're gonna be for there for an eternity, and we'll never be bored, and we'll never need video games. So again, I know some people are struggling with this, and I want to help you guys. And you can comment to me, you can subscribe me, like me, or if you don't like this, unlike me, I don't really care. Send me a message, tell me what you're struggling with in these games, or if you know somebody else who's struggling in these games, send them this video to them, or you know I want to do my best to help you guys from my personal life, from my personal even after even during my walk with God, and how I came back to these video games again. I'm out of it now, thankfully, but I want to help you guys. So please subscribe, message me, and thanks for watching, and God bless.